Your kids can sit this year out. Mother's Day is reserved for the well-behaved ones, my mother said over the phone. My 8-year-old daughter's tiny hands tightened around her juice cup. Her lip quivered, and in a voice so faint it was almost air, she whispered, "Grandma doesn't love me. My name is Ariana Holt. I'm 32 years old." And in that exact moment, one sentence decided everything that came next. If you use my child to wound me, I do not bargain. I cut off access. I sent back a brief response. Understood. I'll cancel my card for the event. Mom left my message unread, then immediately sent it to the family group chat like some kind of prize. Less than 5 minutes later, her Instagram story went live. My sister. My cousins. Champagne glasses raised. Plates piled high with lobster pasta. Everyone grinning beneath the caption, "Mother's Day with a real family kiss mark." They thought public humiliation would make me cave. It didn't. It triggered every silent vow I had ever made to myself the moment I understood they only valued me when my money made life easier for them. I switched off the kitchen lights, pulled my daughter into my arms, and whispered, "You never have to earn love. If people don't treat you like something precious, they lose the right to reach you." Then I opened my banking app. I removed every linked card, shut down every automatic payment tied to family addresses, canceled every restaurant tab I had pre-approved, froze the reimbursement account they treated like a bottomless well. Available balance, 0. For every single one of them. While I did it, the selfies kept flooding the group chat. Steaks, dessert towers, bottles of expensive wine. Every charge hitting my account. Every swipe made with the same smug assumption that the card would go through, because it always had. They had no idea what was coming. 14 minutes later, the notifications began. Declined. 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 But the first call I answered wasn't from my mother. It was the restaurant manager, and tension was already wrapped tight around his voice. "Miss Holt, I'm so sorry to bother you, but your family's card keeps declining. They're saying you're on your way with another one." I stepped out onto the balcony, warm evening air brushing against my skin. "No," I said evenly. "I'm not coming. And they're no longer authorized users." There was a pause. Behind him, I could hear dishes clattering, chairs shifting, voices rising. "Then who is responsible for this bill?" he asked. "My mother," I answered. "The one who told my daughter she wasn't well-behaved enough to attend." Silence. Then he let out a slow breath, like the entire situation had just become painfully clear. "I'll speak with them," he said, his tone now steady. "Thank you for clarifying." The second that call ended, the group chat exploded. My sister came first. "What did you do?" Then my mother. "Call me now. This isn't funny." Then my cousin. "We just ordered dessert. What is happening?" But do you know what stunned them most? Not the humiliation. Not the bill. Not the declined card sitting on the table in front of everyone. It was the fact that, for the first time in my life, I didn't move to rescue them. I didn't rush in. I didn't apologize. And I did not bend. My daughter sat curled beside me on the couch, Disney playing softly while her head rested in my lap. She traced slow circles across my arm. "Mommy, are they mad?" she whispered. "They're upset because they never expected consequences," I told her gently. "Are we in trouble?" I kissed her forehead. "No. We're safe." Outside, the night was still. Inside that restaurant, it was anything but. Phones were being waved in the air. Voices were climbing. Chairs scraped the floor. Cards kept failing. And for the first time in years, they could not charm their way out of the cost. Then Mom called. A real call. Not a voice note. Not one of her furious text rants. Her voice trembled, like arrogance had finally run dry. "Ariana, sweetheart, your card must be having some kind of issue. Can you just fix it so we can finish dinner?" I leaned back against the cushions, my voice level and measured. "There is no issue. I removed all of you today." She went quiet for one beat. Then the old tone returned. Sharp. Familiar. Entitled. "You're doing this on Mother's Day? In front of everyone? You're humiliating us." "No," I said. "You did that when you told my daughter she wasn't worthy of you." Silence. Then the sound of chairs dragging.
whispering.
Someone asking the waiter to run the card again. Mom lowered her voice to a furious hiss. You need to fix this before the entire restaurant watches us get thrown out. There is nothing to fix, I said. Her breathing sharpened. You think this makes you powerful because you have money? No, I said quietly. It makes me powerful because I finally took away access. She tried one last move, fake tears. The same trembling act she used when I was 10, and she wanted me to collapse first. But this time, underneath the sniffing and the practiced shakiness, there was something new.
Fear.
Because she had finally realized the truth. They were no longer inside the vault. She was outside it, just like everyone else. I ended the call. Not furious, not shaking, just finished. My daughter glanced up from her coloring book. Is Grandma still mad? She's learning, I murmured. At that exact moment, my phone lit up again. Not Mom. The restaurant manager. He said only one sentence. They're refusing to leave. We need your authorization for the next step. I closed my eyes and exhaled. I arrived at the restaurant's entrance about 15 minutes later, not in a hurry but deliberately unhurried, as if time itself had nothing to do with me. The moment my mother noticed me, she pushed herself up from the corner table, her makeup already ruined, dark mascara trails cutting through her cheeks while she clutched crumpled napkins in her hand. My sister sat nearby with her arms folded tightly across her chest, acting as though she were the one wronged in all of this. Even the waiter, a young man who clearly wished he was anywhere else, let out a visible breath of relief when I finally showed up. The situation around them had already shifted. They weren't just sitting anymore. They were being watched. Guests stared openly, phones were raised, and hushed voices moved through the room like static. Whatever image of a perfect Mother's Day celebration they had imagined had already collapsed. The instant I stepped close enough, my mother seized my wrist. Ariana, stop this immediately and unfreeze the card. We're embarrassed. You embarrassed yourselves the moment you decided my daughter wasn't worth inviting. I replied evenly. You have to forgive us, she snapped, her voice breaking under pressure. Family always forgives. My daughter's soft, broken question echoed in my mind again. Why don't they want me, Mom? I turned toward the manager. Charge everything to my account, I said calmly, but only what was already served. Not the champagne, not the extra desserts, just the basic order. He nodded without hesitation. Then I looked back at her. You don't get to keep privileges after discarding people. My mother's chin quivered. My sister looked ready to argue again, but stopped herself the moment she met my eyes. For the first time, they seemed to understand there were real consequences now. The payment went through. I signed, then turned and walked away. My mother followed me into the hallway near the entrance, gripping her purse tightly, her voice fragile. Ariana, you're not serious about what you said earlier, are you? I stopped and faced her fully. I haven't even begun. She stood there frozen, as if she was looking at someone unfamiliar. The elevator doors opened behind me. I stepped inside slowly, deliberately, never breaking eye contact. She remained in the hallway, motionless, and just before the doors closed, she whispered, "What are you going to do?" I didn't answer. There was nothing left to explain, only actions left to prove it. On the drive home, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. My father, my brother, relatives, messages, missed calls, voice notes, screenshots. Suddenly, everyone was concerned. Suddenly, everyone needed answers. It was almost ironic how urgency only appeared when their comfort started slipping. When my daughter had been hurting, there was silence. Now that their luxury had been disrupted, they wanted explanations. When I pulled into the driveway, I stepped inside. My daughter was sitting on the carpet coloring, earbuds in, still wearing her little purple hoodie from earlier. She looked up cautiously, searching my face for signs of fear or anger. I knelt beside her. I didn't let them talk down to us today. Her tense shoulders loosened immediately, like she had been holding her breath the entire time. Then I opened my laptop. People often assume consequences are emotional, but they don't realize how structural they can be. Inside my banking dashboard, I opened the authorized users section. 3 names appeared. My mother, my father, my brother. 3 people who treated access like entitlement rather than trust. I clicked remove.
Confirm.
A small window appeared. Processing completed. They tried to play hierarchy, and I let them believe they still had control. What they failed to understand was simple. When you remove access, consequences follow. Especially when the person they dismissed is the one holding everything together. The next morning proved it. Before I had even finished brushing my teeth, my phone lit up nonstop. 15 missed calls, 9 voice messages, and a flood of urgent texts demanding I respond immediately. My mother called first, then my father, then my brother, all of them escalating as if panic could force obedience. I didn't answer any of it. I continued my morning as usual. I fed my daughter cereal, packed her school things, and tied her shoes while she quietly hummed a song from TikTok, completely unbothered. That was the difference. Her world was still safe because I made sure it stayed that way. For the first time, the chaos wasn't inside our home. It was spilling into the lives of the adults who thought they controlled mine. Later that morning, my bank manager called to inform me that my mother and brother had arrived demanding access to my accounts. They had been denied, and they were not handling it well. I calmly sipped my coffee and told him to direct them to legal channels instead of me. After a pause, he said he already had. Not long after, my brother sent a photo of them standing in the bank lobby, my parents and him frozen in disbelief, like people who had just realized their authority no longer worked. The message underneath was simple. Fix this now. A couple of years ago, that would have shaken me. Now it felt like balance finally correcting itself. By midday, I received another call from a family counseling service. My mother had scheduled a mediation session and listed me as if I had already agreed. I nearly laughed. They hadn't asked me, they had decided for me, as they always did. I refused immediately and asked them to record my response. As I washed dishes afterward, I understood something clearly. They weren't seeking peace. They were trying to regain control. And everything shifted from emotional to tactical. Later that afternoon, my aunt called unexpectedly. We hadn't spoken in years. She immediately began accusing me of cruelty, repeating what she had been told, that I had cut them off over money and ruined a family tradition. I let her speak, then calmly asked whether she knew what had been said to my daughter, whether she knew they laughed while she cried, and whether she knew they planned luxuries while expecting me to pay. Her silence told me everything. She didn't know the full story. They never gave it to her. They only gave her the version that protected them. I ended the call and blocked her. Later, my mother tried again, this time using emotion, holding up my daughter's old baby blanket during a video call, her voice trembling as she spoke about forgiveness and family unity. She insisted money shouldn't matter and that everything could be undone. But there was nothing left to undo. For the first time, I didn't bend. I told her calmly that she was only upset because I had stopped funding harm. Then I ended the call before she could respond. That night, my legal advisor sent a short message. It was time. I sat at my kitchen table with documents open while my daughter slept peacefully down the hall. Everything was confirmed. Shared access, joint permissions, and informal control had all been officially dissolved. No one could demand anything from me anymore. I signed and sent the final notice. In less than a second, years of emotional and financial entanglement were officially closed. Later that night, my father called from a different number. I answered only because I wanted it to end cleanly. His voice was quieter now, stripped of anger. He said my mother was crying, my brother felt humiliated, and they all felt betrayed. I listened, then told him the truth. I had felt all of that for years. They just never noticed. He tried to respond, but there was nothing left to negotiate. I told him I wasn't cutting them off. I was freeing myself. Then I ended the call. The next morning, I took my daughter to the botanical garden. We walked under blooming trees, laughing freely, eating ice cream without reason or weight. For her, there was no conflict, no tension, only peace. As she pointed at a butterfly struggling out of its cocoon, something settled in me. The pattern was over. They lost access. But I gained something they never understood. Peace built on self-respect, not fear or obligation. And for the first time, that life was finally mine.